My name is Mark, I'm 43 years old, and I never thought I'd be writing something like this. I've read countless posts from strangers on Reddit over the years, stories about betrayal, heartbreak, and the ways people find out that the person they trusted most in life has been living a double life. I always sympathized with them, but I also thought, deep down, that it was something that happened to other people. Not to me. Not to us. My wife and I were together for almost 2 decades, married for 16 years, with what I thought was a solid, stable, if sometimes routine, life. We had built a home, raised 2 kids, navigated financial struggles and health scares. I thought we were a team. I work in consulting, nothing glamorous but stable enough that I can keep the mortgage paid and give the kids what they need. My wife, Emily, is 39, a school teacher. She's always been the more social one between us, more outgoing, more connected to the neighborhood, more involved with friends, parent groups, and the kind of small community events I usually avoid. I'm introverted by nature, happiest when I can just read or tinker with tech projects at home. That contrast between us was something I used to love. She pulled me out of my shell, introduced me to experiences I would have otherwise missed. I thought it was balance. The first signs that something was wrong were so subtle I brushed them off. She started staying late at school more often, claiming grading or after-hours meetings. One didn't question it much at first because she had always been dedicated to her students. But there were nights when she'd come home with this distant look in her eyes, like her body was here but her mind was somewhere else. She laughed less at my jokes. She seemed distracted at dinner. I chalked it up to stress. Everyone goes through phases, right? One evening about 6 months ago, she was sitting on the couch, scrolling on her phone. She smiled at something, one of those little half smiles you do when a message amuses you. I asked what was funny. She quickly locked her phone and said it was just a meme from a coworker. Maybe that should have been my first real red flag. But I didn't push. I trusted her. What I didn't realize at the time was how that trust was already being abused. The truth revealed itself in the most banal, stupid way imaginable. One Saturday morning, I got up before everyone else and went to make coffee. Her phone was on the counter, charging. Normally I would never snoop, but a notification lit up the screen. WhatsApp, a preview of a message with a heart emoji. At first I thought maybe it was from a female friend. She had a lot of those. But then I saw the name, Tom. Now, Tom was someone I'd heard of. He wasn't a stranger. He was a fellow teacher at her school. She'd mentioned him casually before, the way you mention coworkers. Nothing suspicious. But something about that heart emoji at 7 in the morning made my stomach twist. I tried to tell myself it could still be innocent. Maybe he sent silly stickers to everyone. Maybe I was overreacting. But the curiosity gnawed at me. I did something I regret and don't regret at the same time. I opened her phone. She never put a password on it because we'd always shared everything. Inside WhatsApp was a chat history that shattered my world. I scrolled through days, weeks, months of messages. At first it was friendly banter, complaining about work, students, the usual. But then it got more personal. Flirty, then explicitly romantic, then sexual. I read things I wish I could erase from my mind. She told him things she never told me anymore, little compliments, intimate confessions. She called him love. She told him she missed him. They talked about the nights they'd been together in hotels after conferences. I put the phone down and just sat there, hands shaking, staring at the mug of coffee I had made. The house was quiet, kids still asleep upstairs. I felt like the ground under me had opened. The person I had built my entire life with was not the person I thought she was. And worse, it wasn't some short fling or a one-time mistake. This had been going on for months, maybe longer. When she came downstairs later, I tried to act normal. I couldn't. I must have looked pale because she asked if I was okay. I said I didn't sleep well. But inside, something had broken. For days I didn't confront her. I don't know why. Maybe I was in denial. Maybe I needed to gather more proof. I started paying closer attention. She would leave the room to answer calls. She was on her phone constantly, smiling at things she never shared with me. I checked phone records, and sure enough, there were hundreds of texts and late-night calls to Tom. My heart sank deeper with each discovery. The confrontation finally came one evening when she said she was staying late again. I asked, calmly, "Are you really going to be at school?" She looked startled, like a deer caught in headlights. I pressed further, told her I knew about Tom, that I'd seen the messages. At first she denied it. Then she tried to minimize it. "It's not what it looks like. We're just friends. You're reading too much into it." But when I told her I had seen the explicit texts, her face crumbled. She confessed. Yes, she had been seeing him. Yes, It had turned physical months ago. Yes, she still loved me but was confused. That word confused hit me like a slap. How can you be confused after sneaking around behind your husband's back for months? I can't describe the feeling fully. Anger, grief, humiliation, betrayal, all of it swirling. I wanted to scream at her, throw her out, call him and rage, but I didn't. I just sat there, numb, listening to her pathetic attempts to explain. She said she felt neglected, that I was too distant, that life had become routine. Maybe some of that was true. I know I'm not perfect, but none of it excused what she did. We've been in this strange limbo ever since. Some days she begs for forgiveness, says she'll cut off all contact with him. Other days I catch her still messaging him, and she swears it's just to end things. I don't even know what to believe anymore. The trust is gone, replaced with suspicion. I find myself checking her phone, her emails, her whereabouts, things I never imagined it'd do. I hate the person I'm becoming because of this. The kids don't know yet. We've kept the fog for them, but I see the tension bleeding through. My daughter asked me last week why mommy and daddy don't smile at each other anymore. That broke me in a different way. Since that night, I feel like I've been living two parallel lives. Outwardly, I'm still the husband, the father, the man who goes to work, pays bills, cracks forced smiles at family dinners. Inwardly, I'm this hollowed-out shell trying to make sense of how everything I believed about my marriage has been rewritten. It's like watching the movie of your life only to realize halfway through that half the scenes were lies. One of the hardest parts has been the way she looks at me now. Sometimes Emily cries and says she hates herself, that she's ruined everything. Other times she's defensive, even resentful, as if I'm the one who dragged her infidelity into the light. It's whiplash. I never know which version of her I'll be dealing with when I come home. And part of me, the stubborn hopeful part, keeps looking for signs of the woman I fell in love with, but another part whispers that she doesn't exist anymore, or maybe she never did. I've been replaying our history like a detective combing through evidence. The vacations, the anniversaries, the inside jokes, were those real? Did she already have someone else on her mind back then? I remember our last trip before the kids were born, how she held my hand in the streets of Rome and kissed me under a fountain like we were teenagers. That memory used to make me smile. Now I wonder if it was already fading for her even then, and I was just too blind to notice. And Tom. God, I hate that I know his name, his face. I've met him once or twice at school events. He seemed harmless, average, the kind of guy you'd forget after a few minutes of small talk. But apparently he had enough charm, or persistence, or simply availability, to slide into the cracks of my wife's loneliness. It drives me insane to think about the things Hayes shared with her that I haven't in years. It's not just the sex, it's the conversations, the little secrets, the moments of intimacy that should have been mine. Some nights I fantasize about confronting him, about showing up at his door and demanding answers. But I know it wouldn't help. He owes me nothing. She was the one who made vows to me, not him. And yet, the image of his name lighting up her phone still feels like a punch in the gut every time I remember it. It started therapy. Alone for now. I couldn't keep drowning in silence, and I didn't want to unload everything onto friends or family yet. My therapist says betrayal trauma is real, that what I'm feeling, the obsessive thoughts, the paranoia, the alternating rage and despair is all part of the process. She asked if I wanted to pursue couples counseling. I told her I wasn't sure, because the truth is, I don't even know if I want to save this marriage. The kids complicate everything. If it were just me and her, maybe I'd have already told her to pack her things. But the thought of breaking up their home makes me freeze. They're 12 and 9, old enough to understand if we split, but still young enough that it would rock their world. I remember what divorce did to me when I was their age. My parents' breakup painted my entire teenage years with bitterness. I swore I'd never put my own children through that. And now here I am, standing on the edge of the same cliff. One night, after the kids were asleep, I asked Emily if she loved him. She hesitated. That pause told me more than any words could. Eventually she said, I love you. I don't know what I feel for him anymore. But the damage was done, because for even a second, she had to weigh the answer. That hesitation carved a deeper wound than all the explicit texts combined. I catch myself doing insane things, like comparing myself to him. Is he younger, funnier, better looking? What did he give her that I didn't? It's a rabbit hole with no bottom, and I hate myself for even caring. But insecurity is a parasite. It digs into you and feeds off your imagination. The intimacy between us is dead. We still share a bed, but there's a canyon between us now. I can't bring myself to touch her, not when I picture him doing the same. And yet, sometimes she tries reaching for my hand, resting her head on my shoulder, and I freeze. I want to push her away, but I also ache for that closeness. It's torture to crave the comfort of the very person who betrayed you. The lies continue in small ways. She swears she's cut him off, but a scene slips. A muted notification she forgot to hide. A sudden trip to the grocery store that takes far too long. And when I confront her, it's the same cycle: denial, then half-truths, then tears. I'm exhausted. Friends have started to notice something's off. One of my buddies asked if I was sick because of lost weight. I laugh less. I avoid social gatherings because I can't plaster the mask on for long. How do you tell people that your wife has been cheating on you with a coworker and you're too paralyzed to know whether to stay or leave? The other day, my son handed me a picture he drew at school. It was of our family: me, him, his sister, and Emily. We were all smiling. In the corner he had written, "My family is happy." I had to excuse myself to the bathroom and cry quietly like a coward, because I don't know how to preserve that illusion for him much longer. Sometimes I imagine what divorce would look like: the custody schedules, the empty house half the week, the awkward holidays. Other times I imagine staying, swallowing the betrayal, pretending for the kids' sake. But then I wonder if that's even worse, raising them in a home where love has rotted away, where their parents coexist but don't truly connect. I've started writing this here, on Reddit, because I feel like I'm going to explode if I don't let it out somewhere. My therapist listens, but there's only so much space in a 50-minute session, and I can't dump this on my kids or my coworkers. So here it is, my anonymous scream into the void. The hardest nights are the quiet ones, when the kids are asleep and the house is too still. That's when the thoughts creep in. I replay the discovery over and over, like a nightmare I can't wake up from. I hear her laughter through the phone screen. I see her typed words telling another man she loves him. I picture them together in some bland hotel room, while I sat at home, trusting her. The loop never ends. My therapist says it's trauma, that my brain is trying to process something it can't reconcile. All I know is it feels like slow poison. Sometimes I wonder if this is the end of my life as I knew it, or just the painful middle of a story that could still have some hope. She insists she wants to fix things, that she's willing to do therapy, to rebuild trust. But every time she looks me in the eye and swears she's done with him, I hear echoes of the lies she already told. How do you ever believe again after catching someone in betrayal not once, but multiple times? Trust, once shattered, is not a puzzle you can simply glue back together. It's glass dust scattered across the floor. We've had brutal conversations. I've shouted at her until my voice went raw, asking how she could look at me day after day while sneaking around with him. She sobbed, said she doesn't know why, said she felt invisible, unwanted, that she never stopped loving me but wanted to feel alive again. And as much as I want to stay furious, there's a twisted part of me that understands. Because I did let our marriage slip into autopilot. I did retreat into work and hobbies instead of reaching for her. But still, when something breaks, you fix it together. You don't burn down the house because you're cold. I've also had calmer talks with her, where I almost forget for a moment. Well, laugh about something the kids did, or cook dinner side by side, and it feels almost normal. But then it hits me like a sucker punch. Normal doesn't exist anymore. Normal died the moment I saw those messages. I can't unknow it. I can't erase it. It lives in me now, a scar that throbs at random times. People say you should leave, that once a cheater, always a cheater. I read posts and comments that insist divorce is the only self-respecting option. But the truth is, it's not that simple. Love doesn't vanish in a puff of smoke just because betrayal walks in. I still love her, or at least I love the version of her I thought I had. I still see the mother of my children, the woman who held my hand in hospital waiting rooms, who sat with me on our porch at midnight when we couldn't sleep, who knew how I liked my coffee without asking. That version of her feels like a ghost now, but I can't stop chasing it. Other times I think maybe I'm just scared. Scared of being alone at 43. Scared of starting over. Scared of tearing apart the only family structure my kids have ever known. Fear can disguise itself as love if you let it. It started documenting everything, like some kind of amateur investigator: screenshots, dates, records of conversations. Not because I'm planning to take her to court tomorrow, but because I need some form of control in the chaos. Proof that I'm not crazy, that this really happened. When gaslighting enters a marriage, even accidentally, you start doubting your own reality. Having evidence anchors me, even if it feels pathetic. Last week we had what might have been the rawest conversation yet. I asked her point blank if she'd be faithful from here on out. No hedging, no half-truths. She looked at me, tears rolling down her cheeks, and said yes, she'd never hurt me again. And I wanted to believe her. God, I wanted to. But then the darker part of me whispered, she already swore to you once, 16 years ago at the altar. That didn't stop her. Why would this? So here I am, stuck between two impossible futures. One where I leave and tear my family apart, becoming a weekend dad, forever haunted by the absence of what once was. One where I stay and try to patch together a marriage that may never feel whole again, always second-guessing, always wondering if another shoe will drop. Neither option feels like salvation. Both feel like slow deaths in different forms. I don't know yet which path you'll choose. Maybe you'll find strength in leaving. Maybe you'll find grace in staying. Maybe time will dull the sharp edges of this betrayal enough that I can live with it. Or maybe you'll wake up one morning and know I can't share a house with her anymore without choking on resentment. What I do know is that I'm not the same man I was before. Infidelity changes you. It cracks open parts of yourself you didn't know existed: the paranoia, the grief, the obsessive need to know every detail. It also shows you how fragile the life you built can be, how quickly everything you thought was solid can crumble. If you've read this far, maybe you've been where I am. Maybe you're shaking your head, thinking I should pack my bags and run. Or maybe you understand the paralyzing weight of family, love, and history that makes the decision so impossible. I don't know what the right answer is. All I know is that the man I was 6 months ago trusting, content, quietly certain of his marriage is gone. In his place is someone scarred, someone wary, someone who can't look at his wife without seeing both the woman he once adored and the stranger who lied to him. And maybe that's the cruelest part of betrayal. It doesn't just take away the future you thought you had. It rewrites the past, too, until you're left doubting every smile, every kiss, every memory. Was it ever real, or was it just another story you told yourself? I guess only time will answer that. For now, I'm just trying to breathe through the wreckage and figure out who I am on the other side of it.